So I'm going to be doing a few videos on basically on large omnivore animals and their niche and what they eat in the environment and how that can be extrapolated to human populations. And the reason why is humans are a large omnivore. More or less. Now this video is going to be about chimps, gorillas, and bonobos, which are obviously our closest and our closest cousins, not ancestors, but cousins, because we're descended from the same ancestor as bonobos and chimpanzees. So the fact is, these animals do eat a very high plant-centered diet, a fibrous diet. They do tend to eat a lot of fruit, but I'm going to get into why that does not apply to humans. Now, people don't know this. One of my certifications, now I went to school for criminal justice, but one of my certifications that I took later was in wildlife and forestry management. And I'm a big believer in conservation, but I'm also a big believer in Darwinism and in the fact that the human animal is an animal. And that we do fill an ecological niche, and that humanity should look into it, not necessarily the environmentalist cult, which kind of sees humans as an alien life form, but more look at how humans interact with nature and try to incorporate a more how can I put this, ecologically responsible life that takes into consideration actual science, not like the Al Gore hippie weird Earth Mother Gaia nonsense. So what I want to get into, and that's not necessarily what this video is going to be about, but I'm reclaiming these philosophies that I had years ago. I've always had these philosophies. I got away from them because of, just nonsense in my life, relationships, crap like that. I got away from it. But I want to get into the diet of great apes. So from the Jane Goodall website, basically, I'm going to focus mainly on chimpanzees in the video, but in the links I'm going to have links to gorilla diets, bonobo diets, etc. But essentially, the chimpanzees, 10% of their diet is high protein from the Jane Goodall website, okay, which I'll leave a link to. But 4% of the diet comes from insects such as termites and ants and things like that. And then another 6% comes from meat. Now, what's important to understand, though, is the average chimpanzee. This is similar to like when you look into the ancient Aztecs and things like that. The average Aztec citizen did not eat very much meat, okay, unless it was insects. Okay, same thing with chimps. The average chimpanzee did not eat very much meat. Because it's shared basically on class stratification. The more important the chimp is, the more likely they are to get the meat. Okay, so they also drink mildly alcoholic, naturally fermented date wine, which I thought was very interesting. And they do consume, like most traditional cultures, human cultures, they intuitively consume on a regular basis medicinal plants. Chimps, this is from the San Diego Zoo. These are the differences between the American diet and the chimpanzee diet. Chimpanzees eat only 2/3 of what the American diet is calorically. By weight, I should say, not calorically. By weight, they eat 2/3 of what humans eat in America. Secondly, chimps require zero meat. They don't require meat. Half of what Americans eat by weight, meaning half of what the average American eats by weight, is meat, poultry, fish, eggs, cheese, milk, etc. Now, if you remember, and I'm going to leave a breakdown to the hunter-gatherer diet video that I made about veganism versus a hunter-gatherer diet. The American diet, for consuming all of that meat and cheese and dairy, there's not very much protein in the average American diet. It's only about 12% protein by calories, which shows that the meat and such that humans are eating in America is not necessarily the leanest cuts. Now, on one video that I'm going to leave a link to in the description, it's to a paleo website where they explain that gorillas do eat roughly about 2 grams or more per kilo of body weight in protein from plants, and then state that this cannot be trusted for humans because humans do not have a rumen like the gorillas do. It was actually in association with gorillas and chimpanzees. But the thing is, what people don't understand about humans, and I'm going to leave a link to the Leakey Foundation. The Leakey Foundation is a foundation for anthropology, and people that don't understand this, anthropology is not just the study of humans. It's also the study of primates. It's not primatology per se, but it is the study of human and primate. Okay, now this is interesting because this video, which I've already left links to, usually when I was dissing Frank Tufano, the thing with the cooking is it breaks down and makes more absorbable food. A lot of people don't understand that a human's natural diet contains a whole heck of a lot of cooked food. If you look at human groups all throughout the world, they cook their food. And where they don't cook their food, they like cooked food, okay? Because it is more easily assimilatable. So the thing is, this high fiber, high plant matter diet that chimpanzees and gorillas and humans eat, because if you look at indigenous hunter-gatherer groups, their diets are predominantly plant matter, allows for a better healthy microbiota, the microbiome, and it promotes health in that sort of way. Now, what has led me to get back into this is, now, like as I said, I follow a higher protein, higher fat, lower carbohydrate, not low carbohydrate, but lower carbohydrate vegan diet. Why is this? Well, one of the reasons that chimpanzees and other great apes living in a natural environment, including hunter-gatherers and people that live active lifestyles, such as the Tarahumara of Chihuahua, Mexico, is that they're very, 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 very physically active. And what's interesting about exercise does prevent disease, just like caloric restriction. It's a caloric restriction mimic, but it does not extend maximum lifespan. That's an important thing to understand, which explains why the Tarahumara don't live that much longer than other human groups, despite the fact that they're slender and their plant-based diet. It's because they're depending on the exercise to burn off the excessive calories. So the reason I obey a lower carbohydrate diet, now people might go, about 50% of a chimpanzee diet is figs, okay? Which is a high sugar food, which would greatly impact the average human. If the human ate 50% of their calories in figs, it probably would not reflect well on their insulin sensitivity and their biomarkers for diabetes. However, chimpanzees get away with this because of how physically active they are, okay? The average human is not particularly physically active. So it's not just diet, it's the way diet intertwines with physical activity and other things like that. So my point is and the reason I'm going to be doing other videos with bear, like particularly the black bear, not so much the grizzly bear or the polar bear or the Kodiak bear, is because humans as an animal, in our natural state, fill a similar ecological niche to a bear and to a chimpanzee or a gorilla. It's just the fact. That is what we are. Now, people might go, well, we look phenotypically very different from a bear, and phenotypically very different from a chimpanzee, and phenotypically very different from a gorilla. So how do you know we have similar diets? Well, because hunter-gatherer groups, I'm going to leave a link to my video and the information that was in the description of that video about comparing hunter-gatherer groups to a vegan or a carnivore diet, and you'll see that the hunter-gatherer groups have a diet very similar to the great apes. And this, what makes this easier to understand is many years ago people thought that chimpanzees were herbivorous. They were they didn't consume any flesh. We now know that to be incorrect. Chimpanzees do hunt other monkeys. Actually, well, chimpanzees aren't monkeys, but they do hunt monkeys and consume the flesh of monkeys. So we now see that and again with hunter-gatherer groups, it's a class thing. There's social stratification of who gets the meat and who gets what parts of the meat. Okay, so humans and great apes, other great apes, because we're great apes too, are actually very, 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 very similar. And what you can, I'm a big fan of guinea pigs. I haven't owned a guinea pig in many years, but how you can look at it is, I think off the top of my head, iguanas are herbivores, and so are guinea pigs. Now, phenotypically speaking, now they do fill different niches, but not completely different niches. One's a reptile and one's a mammal, so phenotypically they're very, very different animals, but they fill similar niches. So, like wild guinea pigs are herbivorous and eat roots and other things, and wild iguanas are herbivorous and eat various things. Phenotypically, they're very different, but they depend on similar foods to sustain themselves. Fruits, greens, things like that. So why do I favor a more higher fat, lower carbohydrate diet? Boils down to the difference in physical activity. But also, I do believe that humans, as they evolved, especially in Europe and other places where we relied more on agriculture, did eat different foods that our bodies did adapt to. That's all for this video. Please follow the links in the description. I'll get into what I've been about in the next video, which has to do with a gentleman named Dr. Joel Wallach, and the pros and cons, I believe, of his system. And that's all for this video.